couple of things before we get started. First of all, this is not really a speech. It's not really a lecture. You do not need to take notes. What I was hoping to do tonight with you is just to kind of go through and celebrate entrepreneurship and the movement of entrepreneurship in Mexico, which rivals the United States, as a matter of fact. So a little bit about my background. I'm the editor-in-chief. I work out of my home in Denver, Colorado. I have a 100% virtual staff, which is great because it makes us think like entrepreneurs. It makes us very fleet of foot. I started my career, I graduated from the University of Colorado with a degree in art history and Italian and philosophy, and learned very early on that my only skill in life was storytelling and writing. That was the only thing I came out of college with. So I got started writing and ended up, by some great stroke of fortune, at Entrepreneur Magazine. And it has been the great blessing in my life because entrepreneurs are people who are changing the world. And they're not only changing the world, they're laying the foundation for the future of the world, the future of our children, and the future of our economies. So I celebrate you, and the fact that you show up to this event in this wonderful, big, gigantic venue, I've never seen anything like it, is really a testament to your future and the engagement with your future. So again, this is not a policy talk, this is not politics, this is just good old-fashioned celebration of fun. Can I have the presentation, please? So storytelling. We're all storytellers at Entrepreneur on the editorial side, and we make videos. Like the video you just watched, we made in-house with really no budget, and a lot of contributed video, and a lot of people participated, but we really thought the video told our story very, very well. And one of the things I've learned in the 6 years I've been the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine is that storytelling doesn't just happen in the pages of a magazine. Storytelling happens in business. And great entrepreneurs and great business people always have a story. And your story, as an entrepreneur, is really what will determine your brand. It is a very important part of your evolution in business. So we're just going to talk a little bit about storytelling. And we're just going to stay on this slide here. We're going to skip that one. Here's why storytelling matters. A quick, just a little retrospective for you. My first encounter with the word entrepreneur was when I was in 5th grade. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was in 5th grade in Mr. Saviano's history class, and we got an assignment. He said, all you kids go home and interview your parents and find out what your grandfathers did for a living. So I went home, I got on my bicycle, tootled on home, and asked my mom, I said, Mom, what did Granddaddy Harvey do for a living? And she said, well, you know, he rented boats, he had a lumber yard, he did a lot of things. He was an entrepreneur. And, you know, in my head, how do you draw a picture of an entrepreneur? What do they look like? So I went to my room and did what any good Texan would do. I told a tall tale. I drew a picture of my grandfather on a horse with a cowboy hat and told my entire class he was a cowboy riding on the range with the Texas Rangers. It was a tall tale, not true. How things have changed. Can I get a little clicker love here? So the word entrepreneur, like back in my childhood brain, and back in the day when Entrepreneur Magazine first started, it meant something very, very different than it does today. Back in the day, an entrepreneur meant what? What did it mean if you told somebody you were an entrepreneur? It meant you didn't have a job. It meant you were trying to make a quick buck, right? And even if you look at the old covers of Entrepreneur Magazine, it's very, you know, how to get rich quick, it's how to make money, it's how to, you know, it was a little bit different. And you look at how far we've come. There we go. If you look at the, are you going to be my human clicker? That's awesome. I've never had one of those. That's cool. See, entrepreneurial, right there. You could charge me for it. But if you look at the evolution of what the word entrepreneur means, and you can kind of just see the comparison of the old covers and the newer covers of Entrepreneur and get a sense of, especially in the United States, entrepreneurship is very, very much a presence in our culture and our economy and our creative industries, and we embrace it. We embrace entrepreneurship, and over these years, being an entrepreneur no longer means, your grandfather is, trying to make a buck. It means you're doing something for yourself. You are in charge of your own destiny. You get to create something where there was nothing. And the phenomenon really began when Sir Richard Branson came onto the scene. Richard Branson, single-handedly, we call him Mr. Sexy at the office. I've got my human clicker back. Are you sure? I mean, I kind of like it. You wanna stay? Richard Branson really brought to life the idea and the essence of entrepreneurship, and he made it cool. He made it cool because he did so many things that were so unimaginable, and he was limited only by and still is limited only by his own imagination. And he preaches this. He evangelizes the wonderfulness of creativity in everything that you do. And he also has made it known that, the definition of entrepreneur, anybody can buy a business, right? Anybody can go out and buy a donut shop. Anybody can go out and buy, a car lot. It's the people who create and innovate something where there was nothing before. That is the true definition of not only entrepreneurship, but innovation. And we celebrate innovation a lot. On the other side of Branson, there are other wonderful, strange stories we get to tell at Entrepreneur Magazine. And this guy, I met him last year in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I loved his story. First of all, in Copenhagen, Denmark is different than Mexico. They are emotionless in Denmark. They are emotionless and very precise, which is also different than Mexico. And he sort of rose up from nothing. The most passionate person I've ever met in Copenhagen. How twisted is that? His name is Lasse Andersen, and he has a passion in life for porridge, oatmeal, the stuff that's gooey that you eat for breakfast. And it's disgusting, but he has started an entire industry on porridge. Not only in Denmark, he is opening a porridge shop, if you can imagine it, in Manhattan. And he is just, there's a saying in Copenhagen, it's called the law of Janta. Do you know the law of Janta? You guys don't practice it, I promise you. The law of Janta is a principle, a belief in the Scandinavian countries that everyone is created equal. No one can rise up from the crowd. If you rise up, you'll be smashed back down like a nail in a board. That's their saying, which is weird too. But in Copenhagen, there's this groundswell, this magic happening with the younger generation, like Lasse. And they want to be in charge of their destiny. They want to own their future. They want to be creative. They want to be the kingpin of porridge, And the older generations in Denmark and Sweden and all of Scandinavia, they consider entrepreneurship like the mafia. They really do not approve of it because it's so vastly different. But my thinking is, if entrepreneurship can catch on with this younger generation in Copenhagen, it can happen anywhere. And when that happens, really great things happen in your country and your culture and your economy. I mean, entrepreneurship is the future. I really do believe that. Along with all of the stories we tell, the stories of your business, the stories in our magazine, the stories of being in Mexico, there are failures in business and there are failures in life. And in the United States, we have begun this very strange phenomenon of embracing failure, right? Failure is now very, very much a part of the culture in Silicon Valley. In fact, if you have not failed at least one time in Silicon Valley, you're not taken seriously. And it makes it much, much harder to raise capital. And there are ways to do it. And I know that's different in Mexico. You guys are a little bit more, you don't like to fail. You guys are pretty much passionate go-getters. You can embrace and learn from your failure and move on and not let it define you, or it will bury you. And I'm going to tell you a story, and this is a true story, a story from my life. 3 years ago, I was on a motorcycle tour in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I got a call, and the call was from the sheriff's department. I live up on top of a mountain in Colorado, and the sheriff said, "There's a fast-moving wildfire. Evacuate everything you can. Get your livestock out, and go." Well, I was 1,000 miles away, so I couldn't evacuate. And it turns out that once we were back allowed on our property, we lost everything. Everything was burned to the ground except bed springs, which is weird. They don't burn. I don't know why. And the Red Cross, in the United States, we have the Red Cross. They just magically show up at disaster areas. And when you're in a disaster area that is a torched, forest fire area, they give you 3 things. They give you a hazmat mask, they give you these really long gloves, they give you a shovel, and they give you a sieve to go through all the rubble to see if you can find something. And about the 3rd day of digging through the ruin of my life, covered in soot, stinky chemicals, I looked to my husband and I said, "We cannot let this fire define us. We cannot. We can sit here for the rest of our lives looking for little pieces of our past and just stay here and not move forward." So that day, we dusted off, we threw away the hazmat mask, and we decided to rebuild our house. And it feels a lot like that when you fail in business. I know, because I've done it a lot myself. If you focus on the failure and you make that who you are, you're not going to be able to succeed. That's why, failure is a part of your story. We all fail every day, on different occasions. It's just a matter of scale. So failure is very much a part of storytelling, and it's definitely a part of storytelling in Silicon Valley. They actually have a conference called FailCon. FailCon. Okay, so this is not hard and fast. Don't write this down. These are just observations on a cocktail napkin after 6 or 7 years hanging out with entrepreneurs. These are the things that I've seen in entrepreneurs that kind of indicate successfulness. The first thing is, and this is really important, this is like a Richard Branson-esque lesson. Have a clear vision of what you want to do and what your idea is. If you can't state your vision in 4 sentences or less, you got to go back to the drawing board and rethink it. It has to be that simple. You have to have that kind of focus. You absolutely have to understand your revenue models. You have to take advantage of the market intelligence. And this is something I wanted to touch on. The market intelligence that's out there on the internet now with the crowdfunding platforms and with the crowd and with the collective intelligence is not only a cool way to raise capital and really changing your access to capital, it's also a really brilliant way to gather market intelligence. Because if you're on Kickstarter, is anyone on Kickstarter here? See, if you're out there on Kickstarter and you have your campaign going and you're telling your story, right? You got to tell a story on Kickstarter. The market's going to weigh in. They're going to weigh in and they're going to say, "I like this idea, but wow, what if you thought of this?" And they're going to give you all this free intelligence. And that's just a phenomenon of our social media that's happening right now. And crowdfunding, not only is it a brilliant way to, raise capital and get your story out there, crowdfunding is the reason that storytelling is now such an important part of your business plan. I remember when I pitched my first business to a company in Boulder, Colorado called Techstars, and I spent all this time on a deck, the pretty pictures, and I had my story down, and it was beautiful. And it was called mypoliticaldna.com, and if you've never heard of it, that's because I never raised the money to start it. And there's a reason for that. So the VC looked at my deck, kind of skipped, and what do VCs do? They skip to the financials on the backside. They always go to the financials. It was like the most annoying thing because I was the storyteller. The storyteller was the thing. But that has changed. It's no longer about your financials. It's about your story, and it's about you, because you are the essence of what your company will become, and that is proven time and time again. So get out there, and if you really are serious about starting a business, mess around with those crowdfunding platforms. Vet your ideas, share with people, get feedback. Don't be so, scared, somebody's going to steal it. Share and get feedback. It's collaborative. And of course, what we're talking about right now is know your story, especially if you're out there raising money, raising capital. You've got to know it from the aha moment, the moment that you woke up in the middle of the night and you couldn't sleep for a week because the idea was lighting this fire in your belly. Focus on if you don't know this, you shouldn't be in business, but focus on your customers and your audience with a laser-like precision. Know who they are. Go out there and get on Twitter, get on Facebook, find the communities of customers that you want to target. And there's one thing that I left off of here, and we kind of touched on it earlier, but it's really important to remember fear is natural. Normal mortals are not fearless like Branson. Normal mortals have fear and anxiety. But my promise to you is that once you get over your fear, once you clear your fear, on the other side of that, on the other side of your fear is your success. And I guarantee that. Fear it can be really evil. The other thing that is the buzzword, do you guys is disruption the thing now in Mexico in the tech sector? Disruption? It's a technology term. It's, the whole idea of disruption is, stopping and impeding a known way of thinking. It's disrupting process, product, customers, markets, thinking, intelligence, creativity. It's a very important concept, and it's kind of gathered a lot of steam. And we, for years in the magazine and on our website, we have talked about disruption, how you should disrupt, you should disrupt, you should disrupt. And we were kind of preachy about it, We got a little bit, everybody should disrupt. And we came to the conclusion that we've never actually disrupted ourselves. And, I am a magazine editor. I work in the medium of print. I love print. I love reading pages. I love turning pages. I love smelling the ink on the page. I like the experience of a magazine. How do you disrupt a magazine? The internet is disrupting magazines, but we wanted to disrupt ourselves. We wanted to be participants with you, with our readers. We can't just talk about disruption. We need to be disruption. So we disrupted this is brand new, by the way. This is not even off the press. So we changed our logo, which looks a little lonely right there. And we put Will.i.am on our cover. Because why? Because this is not an old man magazine. It's not an old man topic. This is entrepreneur. This is our future. And so we wanted to make it a younger experience. And do you like it? Okay, thank you. My boss is sitting back there, so I need some feedback. But it was really scary because it's a risk. It was a risk. The entire magazine has been, completely rethought and redesigned, and we wanted to give it that life and that passion that we feel, but maybe wasn't necessarily represented. And then I'm just going to conclude with this, since this speech is more of a kiss on the cheek than a big lecture. This is the back page of our magazine. It's by a man named James Victoria, a very famous poster maker, and he does beautiful work, and he says beautiful things, and I just love him. And I loved the idea of something as simple as this image, and I related to it because there are days, sometimes weeks, when I will be sitting at my computer, my desk in Colorado, and it's blank, and I can't get the words to come out. And I can't, there's some sort of brain thing that happens, writer's block. But if you just get that first word on the page, the rest comes. And it's exactly the same in business. You just have to start, and you have to believe in yourselves, and you can't let failure define you. And that's all I have. Thank you. Do you want to do a Q&A? Oh, okay. Oh my God, I feel like a robot. I need my human clicker guy up here to hold these in. Yeah, it's working. Okay. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Ah, okay.
Am, Muy buenas tardes, bueno, noches, bueno, ¿cómo explicar? Bueno, apenas voy conociendo lo que es la revista que está comentando, me parece muy interesante. La verdad, bueno, mi pregunta sería, ¿existe bueno, la revista ha hecho algo en español en esto o
We,
para saber más de la revista? Suena muy interesante eso de saber las historias de los emprendedores. Como uno que va empezando, pues sí, de verdad, no me extiendo así.
it's a beautiful question. And we have partners here in Mexico City, and they have a booth down there, and we do cover a lot of Mexican entrepreneurial topics, and we take it very seriously. And in our English version too, we write a lot about the creative industries here in Mexico. It's freaking me out, man. Oh.
Okay. Gracias.
Hola.
Hola.
Mi pregunta es, ¿qué características crees que necesitamos los emprendedores latinoamericanos ahorita?
Are there any politicians in the room? I mean, there are a lot of, first of all, I think this culture has a lot going for it, like a ton. You've got the passion, you've got the drive, you've got so many interesting arts going on. You've got music, you've got, like, there is no excuse that this country couldn't be anchored by entrepreneurship. I mean, you've got wonderful, you know, intelligent people. I mean, the intellectual capital here is astonishing. I mean, but there are things like too many policies and too many rules. It's really hard to get going. I mean, it can bog you down. Does that answer your question?
More or less.
Yeah.
My question was, which, I don't know, skills an entrepreneur should have now in Latin America? An Latin American entrepreneur, what should we do now to compete?
So that is a very interesting question. So you can't be Silicon Valley, right? It already exists. You can't be Boulder. You can't be Austin. You have to figure out what your ecosystem is. And I don't have the answer. And you know, there are entrepreneurs who are wildly successful who have never graduated from college. There are entrepreneurs who, you know, have learning disabilities. There are no handicaps to becoming an entrepreneur. It's just finding the thing that you want to be as an ecosystem. And entrepreneurship works much better in an ecosystem than, you know, sort of scattered around. And once you can get universities working in tandem with communities, that's when a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities happen. Better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Voy o vas.
You don't have to put the
Oh, thank
headphone
God.
on. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for coming. I'm so excited. And my question was, for, let's say, Generation Generation Z or millennials or however they should be called. What do you recommend? I'm a student of first semester of communication sciences, so I'm just entering into this whole world that is very, very scary. And I would like to know what you recommend for these new generations that are just starting, and especially because of all these new social media platforms like YouTube or Twitter, and so many people exploding in there. Like, one doesn't know anymore where to go, if to go to old media or to go to new media.
Well, as an old media girl, I say go to old media. But it's a great question about social media, and it's very important, like in your life, to know, where to experiment on social media. But if you think about it, like, you should get to know all the platforms, because it's the first time in history that you can literally launch a business with $0. Like, you can get out there and create audience, create a whole entire conversation, and it's free market intelligence, like we were talking about before, but it's unprecedented in the history of the world that you can have a free, 5 different platforms that are free as your marketing strategy. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing, playfulness is a good thing, and experimentation is too, and you never know what you're gonna trip over or find that might jiggle an idea loose.
Thank you.
Amy. Aquí,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Hey, you.
Oh, thank you. A little jet
Oye,
laggy.
Amy, fíjate que la revista Entrepreneur,
Wait, momentito.
la revista Entrepreneur yo la consumo de hace mucho tiempo aquí en México, y pues trae mucha información al respecto sobre cómo crear páginas, compañías que se dedican a darte ese servicio, a cómo hacer tu logotipo, tu marca, todo lo que es el marketing, networking y todo eso. Y me ha gustado, ahí las tengo. Yo también tengo otra revista que estoy suscrito, que es de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, que es Emprendedores también, más lo que veo en internet, y pues aquí estamos emprendiendo. Tú conoces de Alga Espirulina, que es mi futura empresa. Debe existir porque ahí en California hay una granja de alga espirulina, pero bueno, la revista me ha servido mucho.
And I'm sorry if we haven't covered spirulina enough. Kale is the rage right now, so. But that's fair. That's wonderful to hear. And if you have feedback or other things we can write about or stories we need to tell, you can send me an email. I read all my email. So, thank you. Gracias. I can't choose.
Hola.
Hola.
Uno de los emprendedores más importantes del país es Jordi Muñoz, que tristemente su éxito no fue dentro de México. ¿Qué crees que haga falta en el país por parte del gobierno para poder hacer estos semilleros una realidad?
I have no comment. I mean, you guys can fix it, And that's all I have to say on that. Yes.
Hi, Amy. About the storytelling, is there a specific structure about storytelling, or can you give us ideas or tips about how can we write our business storytelling, please?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. So in storytelling, and if you are in business these days, just like we were talking about social media, you are in media, and which means you are a storyteller. And the most important thing is that you have to have conversations with people, conversations with your customers and your fans. But a good story has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, or like the falling action. So, and that really kind of is the essence of a brand. I mean, if you think about it, your brand is your story. Your brand is what you stand for, and your story is what backs that up. Does that answer the question?
Hola.
Hola.
Hola. Bien. Mira, yo soy de Venezuela. Me vine a México con la intención firme de crear una agencia de comunicaciones digitales cuya médula de sus productos y servicios sea el storytelling. Quizá no es tema de este foro, pero sí me gustaría que me dijeras a mí o a las personas que tienen la misma inquietud qué herramientas desarrollar para ofrecer como producto específico de una agencia de comunicación con estas características, dónde me puedo nutrir de información, qué herramientas se usan, por ejemplo HubSpot o otras que quizás tú ya manejas mucho mejor que esas. Lléname de luces.
Wow, that is a lot of enlightening for this late in the day. There's multiple prongs to what you're asking, and the internet is rich with resources that you should go to, like Mashable.com. Check them out. They're not in Spanish yet, but our website, of course, is a good source of information. If you want to get crowdfunding specific information, go to TechCrunch. They're very heavy in crowdfunding, and they've got great tips and tools. Those are all my competitors, too. I just gave away my traffic. I'm going to have to go here pretty soon. I got a car to catch, so maybe one more. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at you but not pointing.
Ok, ya todos te preguntaron algo acerca de tu presentación. Algo más personal, ¿cuál es tu historia que te inspiró y por qué? ¿A quién es como que tu ídolo de, este es un gran emprendedor?
Well, thank you. You know what? Nobody has ever asked that question. I mean, the fire in my belly, the thing that you know, first of all, I'm so lucky to be associated with something like entrepreneurs and people like you and the people I meet all over the world. And it's the creatives and the artists and the people who are risking it all, making things with their hands, like, they inspire me. They inspire me. The social entrepreneurs really do inspire me. And was that the whole question? Hitting the wall here.
Like, who inspired you?
Oh, yeah. And so my favorite entrepreneur of all time, I mean, I love them all. I mean, we write about them all, and I love them all, and they're wonderful. And there is a woman in the United States, her name is Limor Fried, and she's the CEO of a company called Adafruit. And she's an engineer, she's a nerd, she's a geek, she likes to make little thingies. And she single-handedly started a movement in our country called the Maker Movement, which has really become kind of, you know, a big thing. And the reason she inspires me, first of all, she's a woman, she's got shocking pink hair, she's an engineer, and she's fearless. She does exactly what she wants to do, and she never takes no for an answer. She's my favorite. Thank you for asking it. That was very nice. All right. Thank you. Viva Mexico!